Lesson 19, Sahasrara Chakra. I feel almost as if there is no need to discuss this anymore, because I mentioned it so many times already because of its importance, because of its main goal actually. One of the main goals of yoga is to cultivate activity in the Crown Chakra. The Sahasrara Chakra is the seventh chakra from the bottom. Western expressions like seventh heaven refer to it. Paradise, heaven are synonym with the seventh chakra. Heaven and paradise are conditions in which you feel in paradise. What does that mean? You have an incredible sense of well-being, peace of mind. And that's only possible when there is sattva. And that is the characteristic of this chakra. It only manifests, the qualities of this chakra only manifest when there is sattva. So everything you have done before, until now, is designed to cultivate, to activate Sahasrara Chakra. Everything in yoga is designed to come to sattva. Because only when there is a relative harmony between the yin and the yang energies, or the Shiva and the Shakti energies, the energy necessary to fuel Sahasrara Chakra starts to rise up from the bottom, passes the heart, throat, Ajna Chakra, to come to the Crown Chakra. In black and white, normal people do not have activity in the Crown Chakra. The reality is, everybody has at least a little bit of activity there. There are moments that you coincidentally are in a relative harmony, allowing you some activity in the Crown Chakra. This happens when you go on a vacation to a very nice spot. You go to the Rocky Mountains, you go to a lake, you go to the Mediterranean in Europe, or Bali in Asia. You go to a nice place where you just spend a week or even more just enjoying, away from work, away from stress, expectations, pressure, and what have you. Just relax, eat nice food, enjoy the beach and the sea and the beautiful environment. It is there where in such conditions that people, in an uncontrolled way, come to a certain level of harmony. It is there where people make sometimes big decisions about their lives because they have some insight during that short period where they're allowed to function in the Crown Chakra. Sorry for that. We need an air conditioner here. The heat causes tickling in my lungs. I should start wearing short pants. Anyway, the Crown Chakra. To great extent, I have bored you with the characteristics in the Crown Chakra. Almost every lesson. It contains wisdom, vision, intuition, deep insight. It is where you oversee the past, and based on understanding the past, you start to see the future. These qualities in yoga are called siddhis, supernatural or paranormal abilities. But I realized over time they're not supernatural at all. They're not paranormal at all. They're natural and they are normal, provided that the energy is there to fuel them. But every person, with or without education, regardless of status, nationality, culture, what have you, has a potential for the crown chakra to manifest. And yoga is the system to do that. If you look at our modern education system, you see that originally the goal was the same. It is still the reason why governments who want their country to thrive, they insist on compulsory education. Otherwise, chaos occurs. People start going back to their animal instincts, and violence, lots of violence occurs. You can see, if you go through history, only you have to do is go back a couple of hundred years only, and the world was a totally different place. If you watch documentaries that are based on historical fact, you see that conflicts in the past were accompanied by incredible bloodshed. These days we try more and more to limit the violence and increase diplomacy. But in the past, whole societies were wiped out in conflicts. It was just normal practice, so to speak, to wipe out the entire population of the enemy when you were victorious. So lots has changed, and one of the main reasons for that is that leaders who themselves had gone through training for the crown chakra to function started more and more insisting on the whole population to be subjected to such kind of training. Our modern education system is part of that, but it has, in my opinion, overshot the goal. It does lead to the development, but then it is accompanied by the huge package of unnecessary and superficial data in the form of everything that you have to memorize and so on. The subjects that you are not interested in but still have to learn just to have a good score at the end of your semester. But the value of it is clear. You see also still with the royal families in Europe, for example, they although they do not practice yoga, their upbringing is very similar to what yoga is trying to achieve. The royal families in Europe, the children of the royal families in Europe are being raised in monastery-like conditions. Very peaceful, eliminating all possible distractions, and surrounded by wise older people, mentors, who guide them from birth until as long as possible, until the mentors are so old that they die or retire. But you also see with, I think I mentioned this before, the captains of industry, the directors of the boards of the big companies, they invest huge money into creating an environment in their headquarters where they are basically sequestered in departments that are exclusively accessible to only those people and their assistants, secretaries and so on, butlers, where they create a monastery-like environment with huge amounts of money. They create a sattvic environment basically for those people to be in a constant condition of contemplation, so they can make important decisions about huge amounts of money, about global deals, not only involving huge amounts of money, but also involving thousands, or if not tens of thousands of employees. As a yogi, as a yoga practitioner, you will notice that you develop more insight, you become wiser. You will, in the first instance, extend that towards your self-development, growth, personal growth, self-development occur naturally as a result of this manifestation of the Crown Chakra. And it will lead to Svarupa Sthiti, which is contains the word Sva, which is the self. You remember from Svadhisthana Chakra, the discovery of the self, the potential of the discovery of the self on a lower level in Svadhisthana Chakra, on a higher level, on a karmic level, on the level of karma, in the Crown Chakra. And there we call the insight that you develop in the self, we call Dharma, or the road towards your Dharma, which is the English word for Dharma basically is destiny, but actually, practically, the meaning of the word Dharma is essence. What essence? Your essence. Most people are not aware of their true essence. They are not aware of their true self. Polluted as they are, inundated as they are, flooded as they are, with impressions that have been poured in since birth. Impressions based on your parents, your environment in which you grow up, your culture, education, the whole sum of all your experiences, pleasant and traumatic all together, they all determine your view of yourself. And like an onion, having so many layers, all this pollution is all the layers of the onion, and this little core inside the onion that contains your essence is just totally invisible for most people. Your yoga practice very naturally, but gradually, it takes time, of course, it is a process of years, if not decades, but it will lead you to come to the core, to the essence, your Dharma of yourself. The chakra only manifests, as said, when there is overall level of sattva, but sattva is never 100% stable. There is always fluctuation. So when there is a light state of Shakti domination, the chakra expresses itself in intelligence. You're highly intelligent when there is a light Shakti domination. So Shakti domination added upon a firm foundation of sattva leads to the manifestation of sheer intellect, intelligence, which is a quality of leaders, if it is correct. In Korea, you have the expression nunchibayo. Although it is being used by many people who don't really possess it, but really nunchibayo means to be very, very faster than light intellectually. Very, very quickly being able to grasp the essence of whatever it is that you are dealing with, whether that is persons or situations, business decisions, etc. In a state of light Shiva domination, the crown chakra expresses itself in love, bliss. Sheer love is ananda. So the person functioning in the crown chakra fluctuates between intelligence and love and manifests in that way in daily life. And those are the real qualities of a true leader. You can recognize those qualities in many leaders, but when you understand what this is about, you also start recognizing leaders, so-called leaders, who do not possess those qualities. Examples of those kind of leaders are leaders that are autocratic. They only care about their self-interest. They do not care about the population that they are supposed to take care of. They oppress them. And if oppression is not enough, they will use violence. And you can see those kind of situations current in current world affairs. There are plenty of examples of this. And there are, of course, plenty of examples of leaders who do function based upon love, upon the heart, and sheer intelligence. Yeah, I mentioned the Jesus Christ and the bodhisattva, who is basically someone in training to become a Buddha. Many people in New Age circles, they kind of revere traditional images of saints, of Buddhas, of Christ, and what have you, not realizing that there are in fact many people in the world around us that are at such a level of development as well. It's just that we look at pictures of people with painted halos around their head, balls of light, and you don't see that when people are walking in the street, because this is all symbolical, but you can feel it. You can feel it by the warmth of their heart, by the wisdom that they emanate. And in fact, you are yourself on your way to some level of Christhood or Buddha-ship. These are just words that people put too much mystery upon. These are phenomena that occur naturally in people, provided that the conditions are such that there is sattva leading to the manifestation of those qualities that symbolically we call Christhood or Buddha-ship. Yeah, some practical things. We call it the Crown Chakra. Physically, we call this the crown. Exactly in Korea, you call it changsuri. Changsuri. Yeah, but in English, in Dutch, in other European languages, we call it the crown for a reason. Kings, queens, symbolically wear a crown on their head to symbolize, to emphasize that they function in the crown chakra and are true leaders. Of course, it's not the crown that makes you a leader. Everybody can put a crown on their head. Very expensive, made of gold and precious stones and what have you. It's just symbolism. And you see the same in indigenous tribes. Still in the Amazon, for example, you have tribes of which the leader wears a beautiful headgear made out of feathers, from eagle feathers or some special kind of bird. That's all to symbolize basically the qualities of the crown chakra. So societies or cultures around the world basically all have this knowledge, this insight, and they all have their own way of symbolizing it, of expressing the symbolism of that. Another practical thing is that I haven't talked much about the mantras that are attached to each of the chakras, because we do not keep ourselves busy with mantras other than Om. But just for your information, the chakras below the crown chakra, from the tailbone, from Muladhara chakra up to Ajna chakra, all have a mantra of one syllable. Ram, Bam, Vam, Lam, and what have you. Om is also one. Except the crown chakra has a 3-syllable mantra that is Unmani. Unmani. And this is of importance, not so much, but this is of importance because we will from today we will read the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, today chapter 2, and then we will switch to the very beginning of the book. Now Unmani is mentioned at least twice, because there is a condition describing the manifestation of the crown chakra being one of the great goals of yoga, and that condition is called Unmani Avashta. So we will come across that when we read chapter 1. And maybe even in chapter 2 describing the purpose of pranayama exercises that you learn. Good. Ego. Mentioned before several times already. Here in the handout you see that ego has to die to allow the crown chakra to function. I've addressed the issue of ego several times because it's very difficult. Many people talk about ego in daily life situations without, most people are actually lacking a true grasp of what ego really is about. Now, usually we talk about ego in a negative sense when people behave in a little bit obnoxious ways or arrogant ways, but there is much more to ego. Ego is not, on the whole, negative. It is just part of a human being, of our functioning, but it can manifest in negative ways, it can manifest in positive ways. The dying of the ego means that you are able to rise above the impulsive behavior that usually comes from it. Because ugly behavior shows a lack of control of ego. So ego having to die does not mean that you have to get rid of it, because you can't. It's an indivisible part of who we are and how we function. But it means to be able to rationalize ourselves, to be able to rationalize our ego, to be able to... The whole purpose of humor, comedy, is to help you rationalize your ego. It is to make you laugh. Not about the comedian. The comedian is just a mirror. The comedian is portraying human behavior that you recognize yourself in, and it allows you to laugh. So that is, of course, a subconscious process. One moment you can enjoy Mr. Bean while going to the convenience store to buy something, and you get angry at somebody because your ego is triggered, just not being able to understand how it works and what happened with you when you were watching Mr. Bean, and then to set that off or compare that with how you feel when being confronted with somebody who rubs against your fur, how do you say? But people whose ego has died are people who are who have the possibility, who have the ability to be humble, even or especially when they are important people. People who do not use or even abuse their position to become arrogant, to control people, to invade people's interests without caring about it. And of course, one does not go without the other. We just talked about the Crown Chakra manifesting as love and intelligence. And love automatically involves inability to do something, anything, at the cost of somebody else. And that is showing a certain level of control of ego. Ego, how can we describe ego? Ego is a thought loaded with emotion. Yes, ego is a thought loaded with emotion. I hear the Dutch anthem. You recognize that? No, you're not Dutch.
No.
So it doesn't mean anything to you. But when I hear the Dutch anthem, my chest swells, I get tears in my eyes, I want to start singing along. That's a thought loaded with emotion. Ego. That is an example of how ego works. Ego is triggered when somebody makes some kind of remark, unpleasant remark about me, about my family, about my culture, about my job, about yoga, anything that I identify myself with. If you make some negative remark about that, it becomes an insult. Ego is responsible for that. If you're in control of ego, you're not insulted. You shrug your shoulders and you say, who cares? Or it's not important. Or you make even a joke about it. The best portrayal of being in control of ego is being able to make jokes about yourself. Can you understand that? Self-mockery. Now, in the last course, somebody asked, yes, but I don't think it is healthy to be self-deprecating. There is a difference between self-mockery and self-destruction. If there is malice in your intent, whether that is directed towards yourself or towards the other, there is ego involved. And it is totally the opposite. It has totally the opposite of effect of what we try to achieve. In the English language, you use the expression bringing something down or bringing someone down. You literally bring yourself down if your self-mockery is based on malice, is based on negativity, destructive approach, while if the intention is good, it actually leads to the opening up of the Crown Chakra. That is why humor has an incredible value in theaters and later with modern technology in films, TV programs and what have you. I remember when I was a child, those were the most popular programs that people were looking forward to. In the past, everything was planned because TV started at 6 o'clock and it finished at 11:30. There was not 24-hour-a-day TV. And we had only 2 channels. And before I was born, there was only 1 channel. Now we have the whole world in our TV set or in our smartphone, for that matter. But you knew exactly which days the certain programs were being broadcasted. Exactly which day, what time, and you would be ready for it on that day and that time. Other days, there were other programs. These days, programs every day. No, you have Netflix, you can choose whenever you want to watch it. You can binge watch 6 episodes in one sitting, for example. But that's all new developments. You understand a little bit more about ego? How do you deal with this? Simply observe. Because nobody is free from ego. Ego can be triggered in anybody, anytime. So simply start with observing. When you feel emotion, then investigate. If I have done this for so long that if I hear the Dutch national anthem and I feel my chest swelling with pride, I just smile. I just smile and I just simply think or am reminded of how people react when they hear their national anthem. There are countries where they throw you in jail if you say something negative about the national anthem, or if you refuse to stand up when the anthem is being played. Ego. There are countries where they will throw you in jail if you say something negative about the king or the president or whoever is in charge at that moment. No sense of humor there. Ego. There are also countries where the late night shows are filled with humor that is close to insult of the leaders, and the leaders themselves can have a laugh at it. Not all, but most can. If they are true leaders, they can. They will just go, they are even being invited in such shows and they just play along with the mockery and the fun and the, yeah. You understand ego a little bit? The moment your ego is triggered, and this is why it's so important, your energy crashes. So you practice yoga all the time. Just try to imagine you practice yoga all the time. Ajita always had interesting anecdotes, but he would come with a story like, there's a yogi sitting in a cave, he has been meditating there for 24 years. And suddenly somebody knocks on the door, enters the cave, and says something stupid that triggers the ego of the yogi. And 24 years of meditation all out the window just because there was no control of ego. What this is about is that, and that is why it's related to the Crown Chakra, you work hard, you are like a what do you call it? Walking on a tightrope. You are balancing like walking on a tightrope. That is what life of a yogi becomes like. And then some small unexpected thing happens and you just tumble off your rope. Your energy crashes, which means you're not in the Crown Chakra anymore. And that is why it's related to be able to function on such a high level of consciousness and manifest all these wonderful characteristics. One of the things important, apart from our balancing act, is to be in control of ego, because ego makes us crash. Crash to where? To the lower emotions and desires, the lower chakras. And you have to start doing all the work again to restore balance and climb up again to seventh heaven, stairway to heaven. You will notice more and more. Look, most people go through life going from one conflict to another. And because they have done that all their lives, they don't see what the harm is. As a yoga practitioner, starting to enjoy more and more the peace of mind that you get from your practice and the adjustments that you make in your life, you become more and more sensitive to those crashes. Even in a city with 12 million people like Seoul, you're relatively sattvic, and then you drive your car and somebody cuts in and you explode in anger. And you overtake and you cut him off, and you realize that it takes you 3-4 days to settle down again and become harmonious again. Or you are in peace, you are relatively sattvic, and just somebody picks a fight with you. It's not your fault, but just somebody crosses your path, whether it's a family member or a neighbor or whoever, in whatever situation. If you don't pay attention, remember the importance of the deer in the heart chakra. You don't pay attention, you are going along in the disharmony, you crash, and you realize that it takes days before you are yourself again. I've had situations where it took me weeks to get back to that balance again. It means that you have to be very careful not to lose it. And that is where your control of ego comes in. Because it's always ego that is responsible for the crash. Remember, ego is in the Manipura chakra. And all actions and reactions, impulses, originate in Manipura chakra. Good. Questions? Yes, Jasmine?
I have a question about a mantra.
Yeah.
There's a mantra I hear really often. It's Mani Padme Hum. I was wondering if you knew what that was.
What about it?
I don't know what it means. I was wondering if you knew.
Mantra singing can lead to a meditative state. Just as making 108 bows can lead to a meditative state. A constant repetition of the same action can lead to a trance. But that is for uneducated people. That is for people who are not able to use their intellect, mind control. So, the world at this moment is very different from even a couple of 100 years ago, when most people were not intellectually developed. Now most people are, to some extent, intellectually developed. The highway is Raja Yoga, is using the intellect to come to that condition, that meditative or contemplative condition. You can do it by repeating a mantra 100 times or 1,000 times, or making 108 bows or more. In fact, if you understand how it works, every activity in life can become meditative, provided that you focus only on that. That is what mindfulness means. But I like to turn it around, because we start with Ajna Chakra and take control, and you naturally become a mindful person. So while you were first busy and distracted, scattered, your yoga practice canalizes your energy, and you naturally become a mindful person, turning daily life situations into meditative activities. So yoga becomes you, and you become yoga. So we don't keep ourselves busy with mantra because mantra is a kindergarten of yoga. It's for people who have not learned to read or write yet. But it can be, if you enjoy it, mantra singing, do so. I may sound a little negative, I'm not. I'm just trying to paint a picture of what it is about. If you like, if you enjoy it, just do. But if you do it through Ajna Chakra, with mind control, it's just so much more efficient and powerful. Yeah? Okay, let's have a short break, then we do asana. Then we have another large discussion to start with pranayama, so we better get on with it.